Charlie's definitely.
People, Deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, in some cases, good night. I reckoned with the Premier League returning, we need to get back in terms of the live stream. Shout out to you lot that have been taking in the videos. Hope you've all enjoyed the international break. It's never boring where Arsenal are concerned. There's always injuries. We know the backdrop of us playing Nottingham Forest on Saturday at 3 p.m. We'll be doing a watch along. Obviously, if we don't win that, it's peak. On paper, we're probably still the favourites. In terms of form, they're flying. We've hit a bit of a blip. We're still linked with sporting directors, probably because there's been no football. There's been a lot of transfer business concerns. So we're going to get into everything. We've got a lot to discuss. If you're on Twitch, big up yourself. Make sure you're subscribing with Amazon Prime. If you're on YouTube, big up yourselves again. And make sure you're smashing the like button and subscribing and tell a friend to tell a friend and sharing and whatnot. Journey to 70k is alive and kicking. As I said, big up yourselves. Where's my manners? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and in some cases, good night, man. Big up DG. We saying, G, I'm there, man. What's the weather saying in London? Is it snowing here in Notts? It's bad still with the snow. Do you know what I've seen? Obviously, I've got friends all around England, and in some parts of London, it looks like it's settling, but I don't think it's settled, man. It's just that horrible, icy kind of stuff, and it's obviously blitz. Vlahović rumours better be false. I believe they are, man. I think where you see where he came out the other day and said he doesn't really, not that he doesn't like running, but he doesn't like running and doing all of that other stuff that the modern day striker has to do. It's fair to say that case is closed, really and truly. And it does make you wonder in hindsight, why was we linked with him? You know, him and Gabriel Jesus, without the obvious, they're two very different kind of central forwards. So I think you're right. I do think it's false. I do think it's A, we've had previous interest in him. B, obviously we need a striker. C, probably with his whole contract business going on at Juventus. And let's face it, man, there does seem to be a cycle where the media portrays Arsenal's concern. Whenever we hit a bit of a blip, fans are disgruntled. Obviously, we're questioning the club, we're questioning the ambition, we're questioning Mikel Arteta, questioning the players, questioning, you know, what Liverpool and City are doing and what that means for us. I think naturally we start to see these kind of us linked with everyone. Rafinha, Vlahović, as somebody said, Isak rumours won't go away. Mohamed Kudus has probably been the man of the international break. So yeah, Simba said his finishing is so inconsistent. Apologies. He has flashes of newness with the finishing. I think if we're letting Arsenal get away with all this, wasting money on Havertz and Rice when we could have spent the money more wisely, you could argue that. I think Rice was money well spent. Obviously, 100 million, you want to see that on more attacking players generally. But, you know, because of his stature in the game, because he was at West Ham and the asking price, I think we've got what we've required from Declan Rice. I think Declan Rice's struggles has been because Mikel Arteta is making him at 8. Now, I get it. You want to win the ball up high up the field, but his bread and butter is his 6. You don't go from being known as one of the best in your position. Some of you were even saying he's better than Rodri, but give or take excluding Rodri. And then, yeah, you're making him something else. On one hand, Mikel Arteta or any manager is only as good as the tools that's been presented to them. But if they're not necessarily utilizing the tools in the best way, it's crazy. Obviously, Declan Rice is, whenever he's played 6, like against Liverpool, he's great. He's been playing as an 8. He's had multiple partners. You know, Mikel Moreno hasn't been fit. Partey's had to play right back more often than not this season, but last season he weren't really fit. There was a time where you're playing with Jorginho. In relation to Kai Havertz, I think you have to look at it on a twofold. I think isolated purely to Kai Havertz, nothing to do with Mikel Arteta. Obviously, players can get better. Smash the like button. Players can get better. Players can do different things. There's always an improvement. Naturally, I think he's playing poor with everyone. But I personally think I can't demand, beyond what I've just said, anything more from Havertz. We all know you're a good player, but you're not what we need up front. You didn't pick yourself. You're not playing yourself. If I'm honest, Kai Havertz is one of the first names on the team sheet. I do think he gives a good goal at, you know, pulling out to the right, dropping into midfield, all of that kind of stuff off the ball. But he's not a traditional number 9, really, and he's a service-reliant player, and we're not creating chances. At this moment in time, you could sign Isak, Gyökeres, all these guys. We're going to say the same things. We've got a chance creation issue, a bit like last season. So I think I do agree with you with what you're saying about Kai Havertz, but I would, you know, as I said, part that off with Kai. I think I just don't think you're caught up to task in that, but you're doing all you can. Where Mikel Arteta and the recruitment drive is concerned, I agree with you. As good as Kai may or may not have been, give or take, neither here nor there. Don't know what sort of striker you would have signed, but you could have spent that money and utilized it in other areas. 100%, man. 105 for Rice is mad. I remember him playing 6 last season. Since we have forgotten, he is not that intelligent to play there. A bit harsh to say an England international, a European Cup winner for West Ham isn't intelligent enough. He's more than intelligent enough, in my opinion, but we're going to have to agree to disagree. Again, I hear you with what you're saying about Rice. Fair enough. City got Rodri before he was still good, but he wasn't held in disregards. But you look at the Caicedo fee, you look at, the wages Casemiro was asked got at Man United better yet. I think that's the going rate, essentially, man. Even someone like Camavinga and Tchouameni, they cost Real Madrid a pretty penny, really. Rice was a good buy for us, but the English tax is real. Mac, there you have it. The English tax is real. And we knew that's what's going to be said. I have more talking points about Kai Havertz, because I do think, if we're honest with ourselves, I'm not going to be disingenuous to Mikel Arteta. Obviously, he knew Kai Havertz was a versatile player. He scored the Champions League winner for Chelsea playing up front, so we knew he was versatile. But let's be very honest, he tried to make him a replacement for Granit Xhaka, in which they're very different players. To go with Jesus' injury and whatnot, he kind of failed upwards. Kai's found a sweet spot for him up front. And as I said, for me, I think we need a striker. I think we need a winger. There's plenty of things I'd like to see at Arsenal. But if I'm honest with you, lot, Bukayo Saka, Kai Havertz, Gabriel Saliba, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, there's some of the first, obviously Raya, and there's a couple of others. Wish Benjamin White, even with his injury. These are some of the first names on the team sheet. And I'll be real, whether, it's a damning mark of where we are as a club, but I think Kai's been one of our more consistent players. I think he's more of our reliable players. He's one of the players that I think gets it. But I do think to go to that next level, if you look at, I think there's plenty of conversation to be said about Arsenal's midfield. Make no mistake, some of you have been following me on a regular basis, been saying that for years. But if we assume the midfield had what we wanted and we just focus on the front three, it's not that you're going to alienate these players or whatever, but you look at that front three, who can and who can't be upgraded upon. They all can. But it's very unlikely Arsenal are going to find the right winger twice the ability of Bukayo Saka. If you could do that, I love Saka, but I love my club more. Get it done. It's fair to say Saka is doing his thing. Kai Havertz, you could upgrade on that. Martinelli, you could upgrade on that. And that doesn't mean they're alienated. If you've got, Martinelli in form, Kai doing what he's doing, the new striker doing what he's doing, Saka doing what he's doing, we're laughing. And I am keen to see what it looks like if we do sign a striker, because you would imagine, I don't think Kai's necessarily going to lose his spot, but you'd imagine you go into a more rotational role. How much game time are you going to get up front? If you go into midfield, we've been down that long road with Kai Havertz. We hope if we go down that again, it's very different, but we know where we're at. And obviously, I don't really care about how much a man gets paid, but he's in his mid-20s, been used to playing week in, week out, on 200 plus grand a week. That could be an issue in itself, which isn't isolated to Kai Havertz, really, man. With Rice, he isn't showing himself what his best position is. Him not finding his best position has been his career. He started as a centre-back, then moved to a 6. Now he's turned into an 8. To be fair, I think his bread and butter is a 6. I do think at some point he's going to play as a centre-half. The 8 thing, I hear it. You have to play the 8 and the 6 very differently to what you do at West Ham. I understand, if you look at Declan Rice, his best qualities are winning the ball back, being a box-to-box kind of destroyer kind of player. So I understand when Mikel Arteta loses the ball, you want to win it as quickly as possible. And we do like to press high. That's primarily what he's using with Declan Rice. But again, I don't think that's him. His bread and butter is a 6, winning the ball back, and just find that balance. By all means, add new functions to his game, but just keep the guy in what he was bought for, really and truly. And going back to the Kai Havertz thing, I'm not saying you lot here necessarily, but some fans are guilty. Some fans sat there and said, we don't need to sign a striker. We've got Kai Havertz. They fell for the Van Persie comparisons and all of that kind of stuff. Havertz has shown that he will get double figures, or he can get double figures, but that came in the second half of the last season. Trossard, excluding this year because he's a bit of a villain, the last 2 years, he's been an assist king and a goal scorer. We've gone on to Kai. When you look in the summer, who is going to get the goals? You're living or dying really and truly by Saka and set pieces. It's not necessarily sustainable. And if you're looking over at City, of course, you can't find the Haaland, but goals win games. Who could you bet your bottom dollar is going to get a goal? And I want to pick my words wisely, but I actually think, it sounds mad to say, but I think Kai Havertz's upturning fortunes in the second half of last season was bad news ultimately for Arsenal. And what I mean by that is obviously not. We want to see people playing well. Nobody really made a big deal about his price tag because he was doing the business. I think he was one of our better players in the second half of the season. But I just feel there was a natural complacency with not wanting to get a striker. Again, I'm not saying I want anyone to play in poor form, but if we assume Kai went up front and those struggles continued, I reckon, well, I don't know really, because you look at the summer we had trying to fight City, it's a bit mad. But I reckon the club forced the ball out a bit for a striker. I reckon they said, yeah, well, we don't mind Sesko. We don't mind Isak. The price is a bit mad. Kai's form is there. I think the club was very complacent in that regards, man, if I'm honest. DG, can you really afford to have a 280 grand a week player holding bench? In theory, you can't. But, you know, if we want to be like City and all of these things, then you're going to be in a scenario where that is going to be something. Not necessarily 200 plus grand a week wages, but they're going to be on healthy figures, really and truly, you know, realistically. But at the same time, you are right. You can't really have that. And it would be a kind of a dark cloud, essentially. And obviously, I hear you, but then you look at the amount of football we've played. What, 11 games in the Premier League? Well, I don't know how much we've played in the Champs. What's that, four or five games, give or take? So you're looking at 15, 16 games. Give or take, say we've played 18 games or something in and around that. When you factor in the League Cup, think about the injuries and all of that stuff. There is enough game time in theory for everyone to get a game. And I do think Kai would be a cool rotationary player. Whether he accepts that, whether, like you said, financially it makes sense, I don't know. And you look around our squad, on one hand, I don't feel we need major surgery. I think we've kind of got there. But on the other hand, you could caveat that, you know, not necessarily in terms of ability and all of these kind of things, but you can make a case of Tomiyasu with the injuries. Do you cut that? Tierney does, but doesn't count because he's not really part of the first team, but he is. Tierney, Zinchenko, Gabriel Jesus, as we've been talking about, Kai Havertz, Jorginho, Thomas Partey, you know, even someone like Trossard, there's rumours he's going to get a new deal. There's rumours that Saudi clubs might be interested. I don't know if there's an offer Arsenal can't refuse for a 29, 30-year-old. Where'd you go with that? We know Raheem Sterling probably isn't going to be made permanent. You know, Neto is cutting as well, unless something happens there. There's probably a couple of other players are missing out. So you do wonder. For me, though, I would like to sit here this time next year. And of course, I'd love to be wrong in January and we do stuff. I would have loved for it to be in the summer, but I would like a striker. I would like a versatile forward. You know, again, I think you can afford to get one of the two. I think, well, to be fair, it's up to me. You get both, but I think you could get one of the two. You could mimic Liverpool, where Kai's our Firmino, Saka is our Salah. Obviously, you've got a Sadio Mane in what would be Martinelli's position. And then you go into midfield, really. You need that long-term partner for Declan Rice because you're making him at 8. You've had consistent changes at left back. Obviously, Martinelli's form's been dead. That partnership, when I say partnership, there's 3 of them, but that kind of left-hand side, it's been a bit mad. And I do think we've engineered, or specifically Mikel Arteta has engineered his own issues in relation to the variables he can control. Like, you look at that summer, Calafiori, big boy signing. I feel there's too much noise personally around Mikel Merino. I said to calm down the hype in the summer, not to knock him. And I'm not saying you can't be a key player, but I thought you was a level raiser rather than a floor raiser rather than a ceiling raiser. But, you know, fans were saying he's the all-action midfielder. He's going to be better than Xhaka. He's going to do this, that, the third. He's come into this team, bust his shoulder against Gabriel, has to adapt to the league. Only really played poorly when everybody's looked dead, really and truly, and people are writing him off. So I'm not going... I think Calafiori and Mikel Merino and Calafiori, good additions. Obviously, you know, not only are you signing Sterling off the backdrop of him not being the Raheem Sterling he once was and alienated from Chelsea, your sporting director or ex-sporting director, Edu, saying, to be fair, we didn't plan to do that. So what did you plan to do? We tried doesn't only go so far. I don't want you to sign players for the sake of it, but I do think some Arsenal fans get into this trap of, we tried, we couldn't do this, we couldn't do that. How far does it go? Again, I'm not saying sign players for no reason, and I can't pull out of my pocket a list of inside forwards, but that's not our job. It's the club's job. You've known you need, even going back to the 2022-23 season when Martinelli and Saka were flying, you know you needed another wide man. And again, not to knock us, because I do think on one hand, cool, don't sign players for no reason. You did try, but it's a results-driven business. Mikel Arteta is trying to win games. At the moment, he's not doing such. There's question marks. The player's the same. The recruitment has to be the same in that regards, man. So it's quite jarring. And for me, fair enough, if we was Manchester City or Real Madrid and them kind of clubs that have achieved what they've achieved, I might fall for this. There's not the right player there and whatnot. But when you're really trying to get over the line, is that affordable? where you've got all the money. Forget money for a second and transfers, but that money means resources. You've got only for scouts, technical staff, data analysis, all of these things. Half of these players we waffle about, we'd like our clubs to sign, they had to start somewhere. They had to, really. And it does seem a bit unclear what our recruitment is. Are we going for the young stars? Are we going for established players? Are we trying to do a bit of both? Because you could argue we're trying to do a bit of both. There's a number of young players that have grown at the club / growing. We've obviously shelled out 65 million, whether we like it or not, on Kai Havertz, who is a German international, played in the Premier League, obviously a Champions League winner as well. Declan Rice of the same ilk, 100 million. But then you look at, and I'm not knocking Trossard or Jorginho signings, or, you know, Raheem Sterling really and truly ain't even been given a chance, has he really, people? But these seem like castaways, players that have a foot out the door anyways, really. And, you know, that's worked for us in the past. You know, it worked for us to a degree with Patrick Vieira, to a degree with Henry, to a degree with Bergkamp, but these are not players of that caliber. You can't play as a single pivot, but there's few DMs who can play the single pivot thing. What else have we got? Big up you lot. Keep your thoughts coming. We're going to get into everything in a second, man. Nathan, appreciate you tuned in. Yeah, Arteta is too experimental. Sometimes better off leaving Rice as a 68 thing don't work. Man, I want my manager to experiment because, you know, obviously if it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you're an idiot. But there needs to be balance. And I personally feel the issues we have in midfield are down to recruitment and down to Mikel Arteta's tactics. I think we've played a dangerous game with injuries, really. We should have looked at last season and went, blimey, we're all right. Again, go back to February. Mikel Arteta said we've got one of the smallest squads in the Premier League. Leaving that summer transfer window, did you feel our squad was any bigger or weaker, or was it exactly the same? It's like we've gone forward 10 steps, gone back. So it's not that we've made regression or progress. We're just here. And obviously, if you're just here, you're running the risk of stagnation. And I said it in the summer, and people said I was preaching and things like that. I feel personally, when you've had 2 years fighting for the league, fair enough. First year, didn't expect it. It is what it is. Second year, we're going to fall off. All the other teams are going to be back. You went 2 points without beating City. Now it's about fine margins. And I genuinely believe when you get into a scenario like that in life, you either go up several gears or you go down several gears. And we don't know what this season's going to, what it's going to say. I don't think we can win the champs. I think it's improbable when in the Prem. Hopefully we can bring a cup, but then if we're happy with a cup beyond the obvious reasons as fans for being happy with cups, this is what Wenger was slated for. And again, it was about fine margins. The manager, the players, Edu, the Cronkies, they came out and said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to win silver. Even go and look at the closing statement of Josh Kroenke when Edu's announcement was released, what he says at the end. So there's a lot of bullish talk. Personally, it feels like whenever we get in the Champions League, there's an air of complacency, if I'm honest with you. And I do think some fans are very negative, but I think some fans fall for this positive BS and the cycle just continues, essentially, if I'm honest with you. We love being a couple pennies short of a pound, man, if I'm honest. We do need a striker, but in Arteta's POV pause, he doesn't think so. He wanted Sesko as his bench striker, Kai as his striker. He wants his striker to be a selfless player. And that's all fine. You can do that. But your striker still needs to be presented with issues. And if you're going to chances, or you're going to have issues. And if you're going to do that, you need to have someone, not just Bukayo Saka putting up them numbers. You need a next guy putting up those numbers. And it might be a bit harsh, and I'm not really saying this, but you might even need a couple more goals from midfield, because there are goals around the team. Obviously, teams are marking a lot better from set pieces. Set pieces, you know, the Salibas, the Gabriels, the unlikely heroes will pop up. When you break it down, Odegaard's probably good for 9+ goals a season, if that, but you don't necessarily know in the summer before the season starts if he's going to be up there. You don't know. The same with Kai, even though he's got double figures. The same with Trossard, the same with Martinelli. Potentially, well, we're a long way away from that, but Gabriel Jesus. Saka is the only one everybody here would bet their life savings is going to get double figures for goals and assists, and it's a very lazy view, but goals win games. And obviously, we ain't got a Haaland, and it's not the best of example. And Pep Guardiola is very different, because he's what I've seen him win the league with a traditional striker, with putting strikers on the flanks, with no striker, with Haaland, with all of this. But I do think Arteta is from the same school of thought as Pep Guardiola, in that your striker is seen as, in many ways, your first defender, a facilitator, a false nine, all of that kind of jazz. Smash the like button, right? But you could argue Pep Guardiola sat there and said, to get to the next level, I might have to sacrifice some of the principles I personally believe and get Haaland, in which Haaland's got to give him something. You know, Haaland's never going to be praised and never going to be the most eye-pleasing of striker. He's never going to be great in terms of the general play and all that modern-day striker stuff, even though he has improved in that regards. But the man gets goals. So Pep met him halfway, Haaland met him halfway. They're laughing. They've got arguably the best traditional striker in the game at the moment. Now, I'm not asking us to sign a Haaland. If there is a next one, go and find that. But you get where I'm going with the example of Mikel Arteta. Like, you've got to sacrifice your own principles, or you've got to hold that. Because again, if we're saying these things about several players and we praise the club on one hand for how they've assembled the squad, if we're talking about midfield, if we're talking about how the dual winners still need to be able to pass the ball forward, how the striker isn't getting any service and he's dropping in, how there isn't really any spark in the final third, don't you have to look at the manager? And I'm not even doing all that sacking stuff, but don't you have to look at the manager? It seems with some Arsenal fans, it's weird in that some people over criticize the manager to the point where asking simple questions or asking questions means you don't support the club. Because again, there's too many unanswered questions going into this season where, again, it's about fine margins and getting over the line. If we're just trying to do this top 4 thing, then you've got the squad for that. But what do I know? I'm just an armchair expert, man. And even that, when we're linked with half the strikers, going back to Vlahović, I don't think Vlahović, maybe at the time with what Mikel Arteta wanted, it was a good fit. But I don't think he is, because being a striker is a selfless act. Go and even listen to Aubameyang's interview the other day where he's speaking about he'd prefer, if he was in this Arteta team, to play on the left-hand side. I wouldn't quite say the wingers have freedom, because they got to go the other way as well. But if any attacker has freedom, it's the wingers, and to a degree Odegaard, because of Odegaard's intelligence. The striker is really a selfless act, as somebody said. You've got to drop deep. Kai's obviously tall, so he pulls over to the right-hand side at times, tries to win the flick-ons for Saka. He's got to, drop into midfield. Goals are probably an added. And to be honest with you, if you look at everyone who's played up front on a consistent basis, Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, outpoint Eddie Nketiah, if being a bagsman or being prolific, in a Mikel Arteta system was everything, these men wouldn't play up front. So again, as much as I like the experiments and the tactical nous and all of these things, I have to wonder, how are we assembling, building the squad? The question now for Mikel Arteta, for me, is, are you a winner? And you've obviously won, you've won a couple trophies at Arsenal. You've been involved in that City stuff, so you know what winning's about. But are you a winner in your own right? At this moment in time, you're not. The good news and the bad news is, we're making an already somewhat impossible task even harder with the title. You're seeing City kind of wobble, Liverpool flying. We're shooting ourselves in the foot way before we talk about Liverpool's form or City's form, which is something I've maintained in the last previous years. Everything's still up for grabs. There's 27, 28 Premier League games, however much in all the cups. It's down to the players and the club to paint whatever narrative, if I'm honest with you. Maybe the plan was always to grab a striker in January. If Kai didn't hit the ground running, it's weird behavior to me, but we know how Arsenal like to move. I can't lie. If that's the plan, then, bro, you might as well wrap up the league title, because unless there's some special, unique opportunity available, we all know January is a difficult time to do business. In an ideal world, nobody wants to do business in January, essentially. Nobody, because you'd have the squad you want. All the players are happy. There's no injuries, etc. But we all know in itself, January's a reactive market. Players are not happy with their football. There's contractual situations. Clubs weren't able or maybe didn't do certain things in the summer, so they have to act in January. So I think that would be silly. And also, everybody knows Arsenal needs a striker. There's no wiggle room like that in January. You're already pressed for time because the market's only open for a month. So you're probably going to get bumped and have to pay a lot more. So I don't know. 4 Champions League games with Sporting next week. You saw what Gyökeres did against City, innit, boy? So audition settings. Gyökeres is good, but I'm concerned that he gets injured frequently. We should get better and cheaper alternatives to Sterling and Jesus. I feel like Ish when I think about, hey. Big up American Gunner, aka Gooner. Hope you and your family are well, man. I sent you a WhatsApp. We should avoid Sesko at all costs. Won't move the needle, and he ain't better than Havertz. We need elite players and superstars. Rice isn't an Arsenal player. Arsenal could have done better that window. Lazy scouting potentially, but I think there's many problems at Arsenal way before I look at Declan Rice. Jesus, Kai, Zinchenko, all purchased to up the levels, yet within 3 years, all need replacing. But then you could argue they've done their jobs. Kai Havertz and Gabriel Jesus. When Gabriel Jesus initially signed for us, breath of fresh air. Zinchenko bought the inverted kind of role, upgraded on that. I personally think the club didn't expect to kind of be in this realm that they find themselves at this moment, like this year and the last 2 years fighting for a league. I genuinely don't believe that. Jesus upgraded upon, Zinchenko upgraded upon, but that's because I don't think that's because of the club. I think that's because what they did, they done what they needed to do. Gabriel Jesus and Zinchenko pick up injuries, evident deficiencies, which indirectly at the club, I think it was naive to do the Disney land stuff, Disney Channel kind of stuff, and think you can give Gabriel Jesus a platform to play up front, he's going to score goals. It would have been a masterstroke. But on another hand, we need to learn from those who have done it. City, Gabriel Jesus, Zinchenko, you lot were squad players. You had good games. You were valued by Pep Guardiola, but you weren't the main guys. Kai Havertz, I think as I said, I think he's in line to what Kai Havertz can control and his ability. I think we've drawn enough blood from the stone. To which you are probably right. You have to upgrade on them, really and truly. And I can't lie to you, in a weird way, Kai has upgraded the levels, whether it's good enough or not. He's better than Jesus up front. He's better than any of them false nine options. Whether, you know, maybe not. If you give them a football, of course, we'd rather watch Gabriel Jesus play. But you're right, they all need replacing. And that's the consistent evolution of a squad. Edu was extremely slow. Look at this summary. Took a month to sign Calafiori. But then the Athletic came out and told us exactly why that Calafiori deal was slowing down, because of those above Edu. This is why I think Edu has to hold many criticisms. But I do think on one hand, his hands are kind of tired. And unlike, well, we can't see what Mikel Arteta is doing on the coaching front week in, week out. But unlike Mikel Arteta, we don't know what Edu's doing. Like, we don't know. We obviously see the signings. We see the contracts. We obviously brought Mikel Arteta. We don't know. So I don't think Edu was perfect. You know, I think I'm being a bit harsh and it's easy for me to say, but I think the signings you made, they weren't easy signings, but like they were doable. You know, Chelsea couldn't get Kai Havertz out the door sooner for the 65 million, especially as Arteta wanted it. You could say maybe you could have got better deals. Gabriel Jesus wanted to cut. Zinni wanted to cut. Them clubs there were happy to sell. Sterling, Chelsea probably couldn't believe our luck that we've saved them again. You know, Trossard, and I'm not knocking the players, but Trossard had a leg out the door already at Brighton. The Mudryk thing didn't bang, so you made that happen. Odegaard, again, Arteta wanted that. 30 million, that's great. The only thing if anything, I'd praise Edu for, and then essentially he brought Mikel Arteta to the club, and that helped the rebuild thing go. And probably for me, the contract renewals, if I'm honest with you, and you know, the club is in a better health from when Edu walked in to Edu leaving, even though I don't think you were the guy. We all know my thoughts on Edu in that regards. And for me, what is Edu's individual legacy at this football club? If anything, it would be, you're the man that said bring in Arteta, but you're not going to get that done without the Cronkies. There's not really a player you look at or a market he exploited and you're like, yo, that was Edu's influence. In the same way you could look at David Dein once upon a time. You know, I'm actually going to do a video on the sporting directors we've been linked with people, but like I said, David Dein at the time, we've been linked with Luis Campos. Once you hear that name, Luis Campos, you think Leo, you think Monaco. Obviously, that Simon Wolf's guy at Leverkusen, he, like Edu, showed bravery to employ Xabi Alonso and his kind of scouting thing. You've got the West Ham guy that did things in Germany. You're struggling to kind of deep what Edu did. But to be fair to Edu, you do seem highly rated within the world of football. And credit to Edu, you got a better gig, if I'm honest with you. Next year for creativity, I'm getting Musiala or Havertz in the left 8 position. No chance of Musiala. Havertz, impossible dream unless you got 100 odd million. I think I speak for many Arsenal fans. Isak more than welcome. Gyökeres more than welcome. Wouldn't mind Anthony Gordon, Nico Williams. I don't mind fighting Barcelona once again for him, but again, you're somewhat fighting a losing battle potentially. Turkey could be done in January, in my opinion. Lyon have provisionally been relegated. They were going to let him go for around 15 odd million last summer. That could be done. Kudus, if you ain't paying that release clause, we know what time it is. When you talk about these Premier League players, we all know there's English tax for the English Premier League players, but there's just a tax you have to pay for English players, man. Eze, I would love him, but he's going to cost an arm and a leg. Elise didn't cost the maddest of fees to buy Munich, but if a Prem team tried to buy him, you know what time it is. Kai Havertz cost 65 odd million quid. Maguire, whether it worked out or not, cost serious peas. You know, if you try and buy Isaacs, the Gamaras, the Kuduses, who else is there? Just anyone outside the traditional top 6. You know what time it really is, really and truly. Moreno ain't good enough, but we'll be here. But he will be here until the next manager comes. But I could see him easily moving on under the new management. I just think he's a calm squad player, man. Hopefully he proves you wrong. If he proves you right, bring in some players that can do the thing. Zubimendi has always been considered better than Moreno. We went for the wrong one. They're two different types, but Moreno's essentially a Spanish Declan Rice. You got a bit, because you're Spanish, you got a bit more technical ability, but you're, in the most nicest way, you're a water carrier, you're a piano pusher. You're there to make the other man thrive, really. You look at Moreno, what do they praise him for? His headers, his duel winning, box to box, all of that stuff. It's not necessarily the technical ability, and I'm not knocking that because you need that. You look at the Invincibles, the Chelsea sides, the United sides, Not so much City, but the City sides. There's players with the swagger and the technical level, and then there's the water carriers. If you ain't got the players that mash work and allow the creative players to thrive, forget about it. If the players that put in the shift don't have the players that have that stardust, forget about it. The key thing is balance, man. Zubamendi, I would love him at the club, but it just seems maybe City are linked with him. Maybe they have a bit more luck, but it seems like where Zubamendi is concerned, it seems like the same old tailwind that a club's interested. He's half on it. You start dotting I's and crossing T's. He seems to get cold feet. Why have we burnt out so quick, though the players don't look up for it? I don't know, man. I don't think the players look burnt out, but you could argue that. You look in the last few years, a lot of these players have played a lot of football. They've played in the Euros. They've been exposed to a lot of minutes. You have a tiny squad. Again, not to catch Mikel Arteta out, I can only go off what the club said. They said in February, or specifically Mikel Arteta, we've got one of the smallest squads. Look how that season ended, or what happened. Look at the season before, how one injury derailed it. So coming into this season, injuries can still affect people, but it's nothing unique to Arsenal. I don't think we put our best foot forward in that regards, really. And isolated to the variables we can control, I don't think we controlled all of them. Big up everyone this afternoon. As good as Kudus is, for 85 million, we could spend that money elsewhere and strike first, or buying a better player for the left who is world class instead of backup. Osimhen would do that for us. I'm not really on the Osimhen hype. Great player, wouldn't be against him, but it's just where we were linked with Ivan Toney and Osimhen. When you break it down, Osimhen's a great player and would help us a lot, but you look at his own injury record, you look at the fact of, for all the talk, why did you end up at Galatasaray? There must be something that these clubs know that we don't. The wages you're going to be on, the fee Napoli wants, your injuries, the commission to your agent. I don't think it made complete sense. I think with Ivan Toney, I don't think he's the perfect option for Arsenal, but I don't think he's not at Arsenal because of his footballing prowess or what he can't do on the football pitch. I just don't, based on what you read, it don't seem like they like Mr. Ivan Toney as a person. Can we speak on Martinelli, who just spams in crosses? Kai ain't going to contest for them. Big up Kai Havertz, man, and big up Martinelli. Martinelli's season, we're back. I'm going to be recording with Jess on her platform, and I'm going to do a recorded video for mine to come out tomorrow, but I'm going to get onto her with that. Martinelli, and you know, this is why you don't know I'm the president of the Martinelli fan club. I'm always there to back him. I do think some people are going over the top, but I do think there are some tangibles with not having stability in the midfield, not having a left back. I do think, you know, Saka gets a tiny bit more freedom to Martinelli, but you could argue that is, why do you think that is? Because Saka's a better player. But I'm at the stage now with Martinelli, and I've said this the last 2 years, Martinelli's going to either go up the gears, or this is what you're going to be for the rest of your career. There's a lot to like about you. You get into these goal-scoring positions, which is obviously great, but your decision-making, your football IQ, and I have no doubt you're trying to improve it, but it's not significantly improved, in my opinion. Honestly, this team is made of glass this season, boy. DG, did you just add in a subliminal smash the like button mid-sentence? You got to, man. You got to. Mind games. You got to remind you lot. Again, like buttons help the thing. Left wing convo, striker convo. It's a techie one, because if you were to sign me a Isak, a Gyökeres, whatever striker you lot want, yeah, and you've got Martinelli, Saka, I'm with that. But then if you get Bukayo Saka, you got Kai doing the facilitating role. You've got a bad boy winger that's, again, we need a man that's just going to get goals. It can't be everything, but going to get goals. Like, goals in it. I'm cool with that, but the ideal world would be both. I think we could do with both. Doesn't have to be too like blockbuster signings, just competent individuals. Look at Liverpool. Like, even Liverpool, I'm sure their fans are a bit critical of their recruitment, but look at their attacking options. Whether he signs a new deal or not, you've still got Salah. You know, just the other day they had Mane and Firmino. They've still got Jota. They got Núñez. They got Gakpo. You know, Curtis Jones can fill in a couple of them roles as well. And I'm probably missing out another one. Really and truly, we haven't got that. And I have to wonder, I would love to ask Mikel Arteta, what is your ideal number of us, like, squad? What's the ideal number you would like in terms of depth? Because it can't be this, really. But I hear that. It depends where you fall. But goals win games, and we need more guarantees, man. We need to be there in the summer, like, Saka's good for this, that's good for that. We can't really have that. We're not getting Osimhen in Jan, man. DG saying about Martinelli. Already gone through that, man. Kai has helped Martinelli. Starboy is fine by himself. As teammates should do, help everyone. Isak or Osimhen in January, please, or just a great winger. I hope to be wrong, and I will take all the banter, but I think if you lot have your eyes on any of that, you're going to be thoroughly disappointed. Knowing these, man, they're going to get Colin Mane on loan. Dead. I'm trying to remain positive about the team, but it's fading unless we upgrade in Jan. I'm not with blind positivity or blind negativity. Reality is there's a lot of negatives off the backdrop of last season, the summer, obviously what we've seen in the last 4 games. The only reasons to be optimistic is that there's 27 games. Try and change the narrative really and truly, and it does feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot. Seems like Musiala is about to sign a new deal. Prime Bale or prime Eden Hazard? Bale was sick, and I've got a picture of Bale, so I have to salute him. Hazard. Ooh. I'd rather watch Hazard, didn't it? I'll change my opinion. DJ, I agree, but not within a year. The progress was fast, so it's in the middle, to be fair. Damn, this was alive. Bring me Campos. Williams, Euro hype. He was rubbish post-Euros and pre-Euros. What's the crack, CJ Del Boy? Here, big up yourself, Del Boy, man. I shot you an email, man. Got to get you on the platform. Xavi Simmons would be a good alternative. He would. I swear he got a big injury, though, so that's probably put a spanner in the works. Martinelli needs to play as an inside forward. He's too out wide. I hear that. Martinelli needs to play with his head up. It's what lets him down. I hear it. Gabby is the modern day Aaron Lennon, no end product. I think Aaron Lennon's decision making was substantially better than Martinelli's. Koulibaly on loan is not bad to stat pad numbers. I'm not on it, man. I can't lie. I'm not on it. And plus, like, until I see, you go back to the end of last year, yeah, where again around this time we was talking about strikers and chance conversion, but we had a chance creation issue. There you look at the Liverpool game, I believe, in the FA Cup, or in and around that period, just before the turn of the year, where we was turning up and down the country, going up and down the country and just smashing teams. If when we was creating a million chances and Kai was missing, Trossard was missing, Saka and Martinelli were missing. If we was doing all of that, then I'd say, yeah, it's easy as you sign a prolific striker, we're gone. You look at the West Ham game at home last year for context. Our striker's not in the box because he's not being asked to. We're not creating. The only chance you have, the only thing we're doing close to creativity is dead balls and crosses. You look at the Chelsea game with the Kai Havertz disallowed goal, with obviously what led to Martinelli's goal, with Odegaard finding him. It was a cross. In fact, towards the end of the game, if you go and watch it again, Mikel Moreno comes on. He's making that darting run into the box. We're crossing the ball a lot more. We're having a lot more half chances. So I do think indirectly, because of whatever Arteta is demanding of these lot tactically, is shooting ourselves in the foot. The Sterling loan ain't worked. A lack of trust in senior players. I'll just send him back in January. He's never going to really get the opportunity. I don't think Sterling's going to get us out the hood. I don't think he's going to do a madness for us, but he ain't had a platform to show anything really and truly. Like, does Arteta trust him? And it wonders, like, you lot just wanted a body for the sake of it. And again, you can't write off a man. This around this time last year, Kai, really and truly for us Kai Havertz supporters, we were just gassing up you turning up against Newcastle, getting into argy-bargy. So you never know, but it's not looking like anything with Sterling. You're not going to get a consistent run. You're not really getting significant minutes. It's just a body, and a lot of fans wanted to console themselves. And it's not necessarily wrong with, I think some Arsenal fans do this weird thing where any player that's down on their luck, they just, whether it's the Sterlings, the Rashfords, even Mudryk, these kind of players, they just think Arteta can just click his fingers and they're back. They're playing amazing. He can do a thing. That's what a lot of them were saying. Obviously, they cross paths at City. It's well known. Mikel Arteta helped Sterling score goals or get into positions to score goals. So with all of that being said, how do you find this? If he doesn't think at his best Sterling is better than Martinelli, then where does he think Sterling ranks at his worst? Because, you saw it last year. Martinelli's still starting. So that tells me at the worst, and I'm not, there's different tactical reasons and all of that jazz. But when a team's not performing, the players that play are the ones trusted, or the ones that have played substantial minutes, give or take. Again, we know there's some contexts with injuries. That shows you who's trusted and who's not. And we're at that point now. We know who's trusted in the squad and who's not. We know Trossard's only in the squad at this moment in time, rightly or wrongly, or was until, ironically, apparently he's picked up an injury, was because of obviously the injuries. But we know you're a bench boy. We know Kivio's a bench boy. We know Zinchenko, the trust gone. We know Gabriel is used to trust gone. We know Sterling's just here to tie us over. We know these things. Like, we know this. We know this. Ethan's a bit different because he's young and that. Even me, I'd like to see, I won't lie, like, Ethan's bread and butter clearly is an 8 and a 10. But I don't think Mikel Arteta, when Odegaard was in, and I think for what it's worth, Odegaard's absence only highlighted the lack of creativity. Naturally, Odegaard comes back in the team, we look a bit better. But if your creativity is living or dying by one man, that's crazy in my opinion. I don't think it's a creativity thing or what you can do in the attacking third. I think it's because Arteta's got this defense-minded first approach. That's why Ethan's not playing. So cool, you don't want to play him in midfield. When Saka's not there, running right wing, run him on the left, you know, on a Foden thing. That's what Foden was doing. And forget Foden. Mikel Arteta's former manager, Arsene Wenger. We've seen Ramsey, not the best of example, but we've seen Ramsey out wide. We've seen Wilshere out wide. It's very different because he was playing out wide, but we've seen Santi playing both roles. You know, Arsene Wenger always used to sit here with Iwobi and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, say they'll be central midfielders. We've seen them play out wide. Ethan could easily get some minutes out wide, and when you go back in the central midfield, as Wenger used to say, you get a new appreciation because in theory you've got less time. You've got no time in midfield, in central midfield, but you don't really have time out wide, and the angles are different. You have less space, is what I should say. Better yet, but I don't think the Sterling things worked out purely because of like. It's not all to do with Sterling. Let's be honest. It's a relationship of convenience. We got our pants pulled down for Nico Williams or whatever. We needed someone. Chelsea, we've got decent negotiations because we're always buying their trash. Got it done, kept it moving. Like, when have you heard Edu, whether the signings have worked out or not? He never said it about Tavares, Marquinhos, Lokonga, any of these guys. He came out the minute before, you know, away from that Sterling interview, and I've got a point to prove. When have you seen Edu come out and say, to be fair, we didn't plan to do that? Now, that could be just being honest, because clearly everybody knows, and not trying to belittle our intelligence, or that could be being devil's advocate. Edu's like, bro, you know, this ain't really my thing, you know. Who knows? Because I do think on one hand, the Cronkies might have sat there in the summer, whether I agree with it or not, and said, listen, giving you a lot of money, you can't really be talking to me about a striker, because the striker you bought for 65 million, he's there. I've given you all of these fees, and you haven't really got something out of them. You haven't really sold players. Relax a bit. Pattern the resources a bit. I'm not sure. We ain't signing no one in Jan. Reality is Jan comes and Arsenal put out summer war chest stories to shut the fan base up and get them giddy again. Personally, I don't even see the club will go for any superstars. They're cheap. Maybe a good left centre mid will help him have a season like 22-23. I hear you and you're not wrong, but I think with Martinelli, it's this, man. It's just upstairs, man. We need bodies. Alone is not bad. We freaking Sterling, FFS. We ain't exactly getting in top quality. If we sign Carlo, sack the board and the manager, they don't want us to win. I'm not with Williams. Think the Euro's overhyped. And to be fair, 200 grand and doesn't produce major output like that. Frankfurt played a blinder for 100 million for Kolo Mani. They're going to do it again with Igatike, not for that much too. We need to wrap up this technical director thing before Jan. You see the names linked. It would be nice because next summer, you've got several key players, deals running down. Now, the ITKs of this world are saying the club are talking with Salibas, the Sakas, the big Gabriels, the Gabriel Martinellis to pattern that. But there's a lot of work to be done, really. And even that, like, I think Edu's serving some gardening leave, and there's some other people working on his behalf. But how much of any progress you wanted to make in Jan, or as much as it's about Jan signings, anyone that knows football, whatever club in the Premier League, us at the end of the year, these are the times that now people are trying to buy players indirectly. Managers are speaking to players. Half of the summer signings you see, the groundwork starts now. So how much has been put to a pause? Like what was said in LA, like we saw, like the Mikel Arteta and the executives, they're going to meet the Cronkies. What is being said? Colo ain't better than Sanogo. It's a bit harsh. Arteta sees positions in players. He doesn't change the system to suit player strengths. This is bad without Odegaard. Proved that. If you notice carefully in the match, Nelly has so much space because teams concentrate on Saka and Odegaard on the other side. He needs to up his game. Yeah, see that on Twitter. Arteta will redeem this player if he comes to Arsenal. It's jarring. Arteta's not a miracle worker. I think he's a great coach, but he can't save everyone. There's players at the club he couldn't save. Lads, we need to wake up. It's an Arteta problem. Sterling will be useful late in the season. I said useful. No doubt he'll be useful. Again, we got to use the word useful. Like you said, it's a body. It's someone that can play in the cup games. It's someone that the quicker we get into the, confirm passage into the next round of the champs, there's minutes. The FA Cup is to come around as well. That's you, Sterling, really. God forbid injuries can strike. Our body's better than no one. Boy, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm so glad Edu is gone. I can't lie. Someone needs to take them David Moyes DVDs off Arteta, and I've been watching Wenger ball clips. Remember his roots. I just think Arteta's gone the other way. I think maybe, do you know what? Maybe we exaggerate the 2022-23 season because as great as we were going forward, we was a bit weird in that season. In that first half, we'll put you to bed. Second half, it's nail biting. It's, are we going to win it? So I did like the following season. Evidently, we improved a lot defensively. I do think we've dropped off a cliff with our defensive standards this season. but he needs to find the balance. Now, it's easier said than done. I reckon Arteta knows that, but you kind of want to take the defensive standards of last season with the attacking standards of the season before that, kind of fuse that. If there's any positives that you lot have from this season, add that to the mix, and then it's wavy. But wait, I don't know, man. I don't know, man. All I can say is I'm here to ride the highs and lows with you lot as an Arsenal fan, man. Smash the like button. Now we only got 49 likes. You lot say I'm one of the most underrated content creators. What's going on? That City game traumatized him. I hear it. And I do. It's a bit weird, man. It's a weird one because there's a world where we hold on against City away. We hold on against Liverpool. We don't concede that goal against Chelsea, but that's all hypotheticals. We did. The only positive for me this season, it's just really in my group chats. I'm just there saying, say what you want about my club. Wait, because I've got Villa fans, Spurs fans, City fans, Liverpool fans, all of these fans. Wait, we didn't lose. But I want to win the league, man. And that's all it's about. As I said, I'm not trying to criticize Arteta. One love for the rebuild, bro. One love for the difficult decisions. What people can't sit there and deny is our club. The trajectory has changed. The platform's changed. It's a lot more healthier. But are you the guy to get us to the promised land? Because it's about fine margins now. Are you able to get us over the line? If not, decisions need to be made. You see what's going on. I'm not saying to sack him, but you see what's going on at Barcelona. The same kind of things they were saying about Wenger. He's paid off the stadium. He's done this. He's done that. Exciting academy. Got money now. Boom, 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 boom. This is a good club for someone to pick to the next level. I feel we're getting into that conversation, especially if people are happy with a League Cup and an FA Cup. As a fan, we want trophies. Bring that. But if that is enough, that is what people wanted Wenger out for. Maybe not the League Cup, because, yeah, we weren't really winning that. But the FA Cup, you get where I'm going with that, people. So it's a techie one, man. And one I wish I could answer, but unfortunately I can't. Now, apparently Arsenal have been linked with a move for the mastermind behind Brest's meteoric rise. As you lot know, people, this said individual, Grégory Lorenzi, actually helped Brest get Champions League football. Since Edu announced that he'd be departing Arsenal, the Premier League side have been curating a short list to replace him. The names on the list are seemingly multiplying. AS Monaco CEO Thiago Scuro has been linked with the role, as has PSG's Luis Campos. Another Liga director has now been linked with the soon-to-be vacant role at the Emirates Stadium. Stade Brest's Grégory Lorenzi, the sporting director, has been a key figure in Brest's meteoric rise from relegation contenders to Champions League contenders. And he's been linked with Nice, Lens, Rennes. He's actually been Roma as well. He's been linked with a move away from his current employers as far back as May. So Campos would be the one for me. This article has said Edu had been planning to link Arsenal to a Brazilian club before seeing the idea shot down by the Gunners' leadership above him. Now, as I've said earlier, as much as Edu has a lot of criticism, I do wonder how much of his hands is tied with decisions he wants to make. Apparently, Leverkusen are announcing an academy in Brazil. Why are we not doing them kind of things there, really? If I'm honest, like, we went to Brazil and we came back with Marquinhos and Martinelli. I love Martinelli. He's hardly a traditional Brazilian footballer. Marquinhos, he's on loan back in his homeland. That tells you how that works, people. So it ain't even been a good development signing at this moment in time, where that 3 million turns into 13 or 30 and it's sold on. We make a profit, we keep it moving. Apparently, according to journalist George Nicola, who says Edu is now completing the task for Nottingham Forest, the Nottingham Forest owner, in his new role. So how much of the forward thinkingness Edu wanted to come with was an issue. Edu had last season, while still working with Arsenal, mapped 8 Brazilian clubs. He had the opportunity and the idea of establishing a relationship between Arsenal and a Brazilian club. This idea ended up not advancing due to the opinions of Arsenal's managers. And I do think in the near to distant future, Chelsea already doing it, couple clubs already doing it. We not really to this extent, but we kind of had a little thing. If you lot remember, we had a club in Ivory Coast, we had a little club in Belgium. We'd, to bypass certain Bandulu laws, we'd get the, Ivorians over to Belgium, then they'll make the move here. I think this is something clubs are going to have to do. So what do I know? Luis Campos has been linked with us. Apparently, he's one of the names under consideration. First choice for me, if I'm honest, just because of the wealth of experience and what he did at Lille and Monaco. Now, his PSG work's been mixed, but I think the PSG one is a bit political. 1 minute you're signing stars, then you're signing development players. There's a lot of egos. It seems like their chairman overly gets involved, if I'm honest, but he has a reputation for finding young talent. You look at what he did at Monaco and Lille and things like that. People bring him to the carpet, if I'm honest with you. That's it for me. And again, Apparently, Arsenal held future planning talks in LA this week. So hopefully they've got an idea of how they want to move. Apparently, Vinay Ventukasem is a target for Newcastle United and could take a similar role in which he was our former chief executive at St James's Park. I thought he was done with football personally. Once again, Lorenzi has been linked with us. What else have we got? Isak breaks silence on Arsenal links. What specifically has he said? Apparently, he's keen to play Champions League football. Arsenal is seen as a potential suitor should the Magpies fail to return to Europe's elite competition. I mean, he probably didn't shed any light. He said, throughout my career, I've never talked about or really commented on the move rumours during the season. There have been many such years where it's been talked about. It doesn't affect me. I'm commentating on my situation in Newcastle. I never had any problem there. I'm really focused on my task there and we'll have a fantastic season. There are still opportunities for that. I have no thoughts about anything else. To be fair, what else could he do? Apparently, Eddie Howe has suggested Newcastle were not in a position financially to give Isak a new contract with the 25-year-old already among the top earners. I think he's got about 4 years left on his deal. So if we did want to sign him, it comes down to money. He's got 5 goals in 11 games. So it's hardly a world-beating kind of season. I mean, Nicolas Pepe's decision-making on the pitch was one thing, but he's got into a relationship with Tiana Trump. So the less said on that, the better. But yeah, big up yourself. Valverde has revealed he came close to joining Arsenal as a teenager. He said he was on trial and he said he worked with the likes of Bellerin, Alexis Sanchez and Santi Cazorla. Newcastle could sell Alexander Isak and sign a world-class replacement, which is a bit hypocritical from what we've just read, people. Who are they going to sign if that's the regards? Osimhen. Fair enough, it'd be a great replacement, but boy, I'm not too sure on that. Arsenal, you would have seen, are exploring plans to expand the Emirates into an 80,000-seater stadium so that the Gunners have the biggest area in Britain. We need to start getting the concerts really and truly in as well as obviously winning stuff on the sporting front. Apparently, Arsenal are attempting to repeat the operation which saw Martin Odegaard join the Gunners on loan from Real Madrid in 2021, according to reports. Naturally, apparently, we're looking at Arda Güler. I'm all for that. If he wants to give up on his Real Madrid kind of career already, I'm all for bringing him to the carpet. I must admit, I don't personally see that, people, but you never know in this life. If I'm honest with you, any of you against it? I would not be against Arda Güler, but again, that's another easy one to make rumors about going into January, starving for football. We need a creative player. We need another option. Was linked with us before. It's a bit brazy. I do wonder if he wishes he joined Barcelona, excluding Real Madrid. Arsenal about to hold transfer talks to sign Lightning striker with move possible in January. Vlahović rumours are back on. I don't believe this, but for what it's worth, apparently Arsenal have hatched a plan to solve this problem. According to Italian journalist Rudy Galletti, the Gunners are looking to sign Vlahović from Juventus in the January transfer window. Apparently, he's claimed that Arsenal will meet with the agent of Vlahović soon. And apparently, we received a boost in the quest to sign the striker by the fact Juventus are ready to sell the 24-year-old Serbian international and are looking at alternatives. I don't buy that personally. And especially when you read this, I cannot run this much. What does this mean? Let's see exactly what he said, people. Yes, I like to play with another striker on the side. I get on well, but it also depends on the coach. It definitely is a bit easier because Mitrovic is a strong player who plays a lot with his back to goal and engaging in aerial duels, and I can exploit my qualities. It's also because the coach did not force me to do so many defensive tasks. And for a player like me, for my frame, honestly, I can't run so much because I'm not that fresh in the final third. Does that sound like a forward that is going to play under Mikel Arteta? You never know. He was interested in him before the system could change, but it's not really making sense to me, people. We've also been linked with, along with Chelsea, William Gomez, who plays for Sao Paulo. Apparently, he's an attacking midfielder or a winger. Sao Paulo believes the 18-year-old could be snapped up by a club in Europe soon. How much are they going to ask? Because you've got an exciting Brazilian in today's day and age. It's 50, 60, 70 plus million quid. Bring him if he's got a bit about him. Apparently, he's got 100 million release clause already. Newcastle is said to have already held talks. So what do you lot make of that, really? But it's about time we got one of these youths. We all know Trossard picked up another injury, and we've got a bunch of injuries, people. Ben White apparently is projected to return in 2025. So that's football this year done for him. Mikel Arteta going into the Forest game will no doubt shed some light on Bukayo Saka, but it's currently unknown when he'll be back. Him and Declan Rice also pulled out of England duty. As you know, Declan Rice has a broken toe. Trossard was forced off after the 30-something minute, people. I don't know what this injury is. It's unclear. So again, I'm sure the club do. Tomiyasu is expected to apparently be back after the international break along with Calafiori. But when he came back against Southampton, he got injured again. We're going to need Tomiyasu and Calafiori and actually Timber because Benjamin White's out and it's never a good time to get injuries, especially when one of your key players and more durable players. But you look at the fixture calendar list, how congested it is. You look at Timber and Calafiori, how many 90-minute games do they have in them like that? The only saving grace, not even a saving grace, is completely irrelevant. I'm keen to see what Timber looks like on his natural side, being right-footed, and the same with Calafiori, and what that could mean for Martinelli. And more so, I'm keen to see what Timber, Saka, indirectly Odegaard, I guess Kai Havertz pulling out to the right, what that looks like. And maybe even Declan Rice if Moreno partners him in the middle of the park. I don't know though, people. Apparently, Kolo Muani has ruled out a January departure from PSG despite struggling to make his mark. As you know, he's been linked with us. He's made just 3 starts in Liga this season. No, I never thought about leaving PSG in January. I have to work more and make my mark. When Luis Enrique, calls on me, I think I'll do that. I'm rooting for you. You don't need to come to the Emirates, man. Safe. Kivior could be set to leave in January. I must admit, unless it's an offer we can't refuse and we bring in a defender, Kivior stays until the summer. If you want to keep it moving in the summer, you do your thing. But he's been linked with Juventus, Villarreal, Marseille, Napoli, Bologna, AC Milan, actually Inter on some other accounts as well. I mean, he's consistently linked with clubs, Sevilla as well. But like in the summer, he didn't go anywhere. Did he not think these moves were right? Did he not believe in the coaching philosophies? Did he want to stay and fight for his spot at Arsenal? Did Mikel Arteta gas him and make him think you could be a part of things? I'm not sure. What do you guys make of our controlling the game since Partey came back from injury last season? We didn't realize what we had with the Jorginho Rice pivot. I won't lie. I think Partey's been a lot better than Rice, Mikel Moreno, and anyone else in the middle of the park that plays in the pivot. So I don't know where that leaves us. Rafinha's finally looking like the Rafinha that he looked like at Leeds and better. Arsenal are planning a strong offensive for the forward, and apparently they've been told he will not leave for under 84 million. I mean, when it was sour for him at Barcelona, he didn't want to leave. Now you're the guy. You scored a lovely free kick for Brazil. You're enjoying life at Barcelona and under Hansi Flick. Scored a hat-trick in the Champions League. Shout out to you, that was part of that watch-along. Would you cut now? Maybe if Barcelona really want to get Nico Williams, and they've been linked with Nico Williams, Gyökeres, Haaland, if they really want to rebuild and do all of that, then naturally they might sell him. But I don't really believe this, if I'm honest with you. Probably leverage the fact that we need another attacking player. Barca are always linked with letting players go. And us, along with Chelsea and Barcelona, did try to get Rafinha, people. And Julian Lorenzi said he would love for Mbappe to link up at Arsenal with Odegaard and Saka. Bring him. I'm all for that. Arsenal outcast who was sold in the summer is better than Martinelli. This is about Smith Rowe. I'm sure some of, I'm not even going to read that. He said, Mr. Paul said Arsenal was, said Saka is overrated. We're not getting into that. Barca are set to turn down a move from Arsenal for Hansi Flick favourite Rafinha. So where does that leave you? Arsenal's response to William Saliba, interest revealed. Arsenal are expected to block Saliba's potential exit to Real Madrid, people, which is great. Give the man the new deal, though. Please. Give him whatever he wants, man. I know he'll play for Barca one day, but it don't have to be 2 days. Arsenal could have a free run at Spain star Nico Williams with Barca's pursuit hitting the buffers. The chance to sign Williams could potentially open up again in the near future for Arsenal. He has a 54.2 million release clause. Not too sure if that's a thing. His demands of around 9 to 10 million per season are too high for Barcelona. And according to ESPN, they're now looking for alternatives, which include Napoli's KK. This is a bit of rumor, so we have to take these things with a pinch of salt. Calafiori and Tomiyasu once again are expected to be back. As I mentioned earlier, Leverkusen are becoming the first Bundesliga club to open an academy in Brazil. These are the things we should be doing. Arsenal and Spurs are both interested in 70 million rated midfielder Hugo Larsson from Eintracht Frankfurt. Paul Pogba is determined to continue his career in one of Europe's top 5 leagues after terminating his Juventus contract. Anyone want that? Simon Hooper has been appointed referee for the home game against Norwich, people, with Darren. Who's that? With Darren England on VAR. What else have we got? We've already gone over Mr. William Gomez. Liverpool and Arsenal will not be able to sign Kudus for less than his 85 million release clause next summer, with West Ham determined to keep him. He'd probably require him to kick up a lot of a fuss. Once again, we're interested in Rafinha. We're allegedly preparing a bid of 75 million. They don't want to let him go for anything less than 83. So currently, where injuries, player rumors, CEOs, or better yet, sporting directors are concerned, that seems to be everything that's concerning our football club. We concede every game. Control is an illusion. No wins in 4. I'll never stop supporting this team. Amen. Kroenkes are very patient, and Arsenal's financials are super healthy. I doubt they get rid of anything for anything other than a disaster. Yeah, Mikel Arteta would have to fall out of the top 4 and really do a madness. If you get top 3, you're calm. Yeah, Overmars, for obvious reasons, you can't come back, man. I can see the Emirates getting upgraded and the Croncaves playing their LA team there. I see it. I'm not against any of that, you know. I'm not against any of that, you know. In the same way I want you to challenge on the field, do your thing off the field. But the problem is, it seems, I don't want to be that guy, but it does feel like as a club, we're more forward thinking off the pitch, apart from the things that off the pitch tie into on the pitch, if I'm honest. And the Emirates, obviously, I don't want to praise Deblot down the road, but they got a new WAR stadium, and you see what they're hosting. You see the sort of stuff you can do there. Naturally, you got to be a businessman. Go and get that sort of stuff for ourselves. Edu is going to cook at Forest. He got free reign. Boy, this is the only time I don't want anything to do with breast. Hey, yo, madman. I don't want to buy anyone without a competent DOF. Don't trust Arteta with signings. We bought 3 left backs and he was pushing for Havertz. I told you about this Zinni guy, why he's writing a book at 26, man's an informer. I did see that, people, and I actually want to, where is that? You know, again, I understand you want to sell your book, and, you know, the whole reason people are going to read a footballer's book is obviously because of insights and things they don't know, but loose lips sink ships. It's an informer business. Like, Zinni, shut up, man. People don't already believe Mikel Arteta where it comes to players and injuries. Like, he says players are not injured, then the injured players are injured, and they're not. He plays a very coy game, but apparently he revealed in his book, I've seen Mikel Arteta tell injured players to come on the team bus and walk into the dressing room with their wash bag to put other managers off the scent. Arteta loves to play games with the opposition. Now, I don't think Mikel Arteta is the first nor the last to do these antics. You never want to give any clues. But Zinni, shut up, man. You chat too much. Chatting too much. You see what happened to Ramsdale for this chatting thing? Loves yapping, man. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating a bit because I don't think he said anything wrong, but chatting. Way too much chatting. Way too much chatting. We've seen reports come out that rival managers don't even take stock in what Mikel Arteta says in relation to injuries already. Like, just shut up, Zinni, man. Loves to chat, man. And yeah, we'll never stop supporting the club. Pogba is training at United now. They will sign him. That cycle never ends. To be honest, it's known, but he does chat a lot. He does, like, unless chattings, man. Allow it, bro. Just cool, man. Just cool, man. But with that being said, though, people, we've been here for an hour. I've got a couple of meetings and things like that. I'm back at 5 p.m. You know, I'm actually going to do a live stream with Loons. Loons, he's a Liverpool fan. You've seen him on the No Behaviour podcast. You've seen him on Filthy Fellas. So make sure you join me. Obviously, videos, watch-alongs, you know, live streams, all that business is here. Big up you lot watching it on the replay. Do me a favor, leave a comment after the stream is done. If you haven't hit the like button and subscribe, make sure you do. Big up you lot on Twitch. Peace. Always